So, today I will be talking about sex. Yes, so familiarize yourselves with the ideas around the clitoris, an orgasm, vagina, and the orgasm gap. Because women have vaginas, not flowers, vajayjays, punanis, or just referring to as what's down there. Sex is a taboo topic, one we always tend to shy away from opening up. But what we fail to realize is that not acknowledging a critical aspect of our anatomy as human beings is also a big problem. The reality is that most heterosexual women today, actually for centuries, have been living in a sexual world revolving around male pleasure. But it shouldn't have to be like this. While women make up around half of the world's population, according to CBS News, only 65% of women orgasm during heterosexual encounters, compared to 95% of men. Wow. How have we accepted such disparities? This issue is quite unsettling to me as a young woman. Therefore, I wish to bring to light the importance of talking about sex and reclaiming the power women should have in defining their own sexual experience. I urge us to move towards a more equal and healthy sexual experience for both women and men. Let's give it a try. Let's try to open these conversations with each other, because while my talk today is mainly focused on feminine pleasure, today is merely a snapshot of the many taboos we need to start breaking down towards a more equal gendered experience. The feminine sexual experience is dictated by a build-up of several factors: cultural, historic, religious, biological. These factors comprise the trajectory of a woman and her sexual experience and are most likely imposed since birth. For years, most women have been trained on a raised balance of what not to do, what not to say, what people will think. And as a result, we are conditioned to keep secrets with ourselves, not discover our own bodies, push boundaries on our comfort zones, be likable to others, not present our opinions, and so on. Of course, these restrictions vary across cultures. To many people, sex is strictly taboo, full stop, while other, more liberal cultures have slowly opened up to its acceptance and encouragement. Coming from a privileged background, I was fortunate enough to have a close-knit family that fostered and promoted my curiosity around sex. But living in Brazil has highlighted to me the lack of proper sexual education in both schools and families. A study conducted by Luisa Souto, a reporter from Globo, revealed that only 40% of young adults today talk about sex with an adult or their parents. With the lack thereof of proper sex education, many young adults suffer from the misinformation they receive about sex. A clear example of this is shown in the government's push towards an abstinence-based sex education in 2020 to help cut staggering teenage pregnancy rates. While the pressure to reduce teenage pregnancies is important, sexual education here lacks the critical social aspects, such as health, consent, pleasure, and the idea that there are other options rather than abstinence, which will open discussions and reflections around the sexual experience for young men and women. But these issues are not just present in underprivileged communities here in Brazil. In the US, for example, out of the 50 US states, only 24 require high school students to receive any sort of sex education. And of these 24 states, only 13 require that the information given to students is medically accurate. I can say that my experience with sex education in any classroom has limited me in what I know about me and my body. Yet, I have learned every detailed information on the male erectile tissue and its function. Why? You tell me. My experience is not unique and is shared across schools, cultures, countries on different levels. Female pleasure is secondary, but it shouldn't be. From education to conversations and general openness on this topic, women and men will familiarize themselves around the female body and its needs. The problem is that the current attitude and misconception around the female body and feminine pleasure is so deeply embedded in our society that even women themselves don't realize it's false. Millions of women aren't taught the comfort, intimacy, and relationship model needed to have healthy relationships with themselves and with their partners. The increasing orgasm gap between heterosexual men and women demonstrates this. Research from Instituição Prazerela in 2018 shows that only 36% of women climax with a partner here in Brazil. Why? If scientifically, according to ABC News, the female orgasm is just as easy to achieve as the male one, why is this still so common? When reading around the internet for stories and perspectives for this TEDx talk, I was not surprised to read that many young adults and even teenagers had bad experiences, and especially first times. But while many did not enjoy sex themselves, they still performed it for their partner. The idea is just so complicated to wrap our heads around because we women are conditioned into thinking that the natural result of sex is the male orgasm, where the female climax is just an extra or a bonus. On the contrary, the week reports that rather than pleasure, over 30% of women report pain during sex and don't tell their partners about it. How come nothing is being done to address this? PubMed has almost 5 times as many clinical trials on male sexual pleasure than female sexual pain. Why? Because we live in a culture that sees female pain as normal and male pleasure as a right. I should add that this is not just common only in sex. Women are constantly and specifically trained out of noticing and responding to bodily discomfort, particularly if they want to be seen as sexually viable. As if no pleasure and pain weren't enough, we still give men the satisfaction. According to Brianna Fa's survey, over 50% of women have faked an orgasm before. That's the majority of women who have faked an orgasm. Why are women so trained to put men's pleasure first that it is almost as if they would instead please their partner by giving the appearance of an orgasm than actually having one themselves? By believing, whether consciously or subconsciously, that their orgasm is less important, women accept and reproduce a subordinate sexual status. At every turn, women are taught that how someone reacts to them does more to establish their goodness and worth than anything they do for themselves. But it shouldn't have to be like this. The world should encourage women to attend to their bodies and their pain instead of powering through quietly. Women and men alike should encourage women to accept and explore their bodies and pleasures and talk about it, just like men do. Because of its intimacy, sex is always a step behind societal development, but we must begin to acknowledge and discuss it. We need to be asking ourselves these questions, all of these whys, because the truth is, men are so comfortable in the way the world works today that we women have to be the ones to break down this taboo. So let's give it a try. From small steps such as informing ourselves on our own bodies, exploring how we feel pleasure, and breaking down the hush-hush by discussing this, we need to normalize body pleasure because, yes, it is normal. We need to give the next generation of women what the women before us have been denied. We need to fuel the next generation of doctors to teach female anatomy. We need to fuel the next generation of teachers who will teach the female anatomy just the way they teach the male one. We need to fuel the next generation of mothers and fathers to openly talk about sex in all of its forms and pleasures. Because without each other, we will continue hiding behind male pleasure for years and years to come. Let's not give that a try. Thank you.